What's up, everybody? Here's Team Woonox. We got the Woonox Junior Squad here, and today we're going to be doing a tier list of the best decks in the game right now. My name is Dominic Fur, and with me I have Shark Enterprises, or Andrew. Say hello.
Hello.
I've got Curly, the Dragon Duel National Champion.
Oh yeah, that's me.
I've got Luis, the Dragon Duel
The
YCS
bot.
Champion.
No,
Luis.
for real.
And then I've got Finn, the local scrub.
Yeah!
Oh.
Alright, so let's get into this. The first deck I want to talk about is Vanquishal K9. So this deck is seeing a lot of results right now at YCS Italy. We're filming this right now as top 8 is currently going on. What are you guys' thoughts on this deck?
I think that deck is good if it's like a really good player playing it. Like Joshua Schmidt, my goat.
I think the deck right now has a really good time into Draco Tail. I think that's part of why it's doing so good, because Draco Tail.
B tier!
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't.
Very good into Draco Tail, but I mean,
I do agree. I think it's really good into Draco Tail, but I think it's kind of a one-event pick. So even if this deck wins the YCS, I don't think my opinion's changing. I think this is just gonna be B tier.
I agree.
And by the way, we're gonna be really harsh on these decks because, as you can see, we're only really ranking the top decks in the meta. But so, like, if a deck is C tier, like, it's still like one of the best decks in the game, but it's just not the best deck in the game because we're just focusing on that. Alright, so next I want to talk about Soulful Cord Yummy, and this deck can include the Mimigal cards as well, depending on how you want to build it. But this deck just basically gives the pure Yummy deck a lot higher ceiling end board, and more ways to push through hand traps and more resilience to Dark Ruler. What are your guys' thoughts on this deck?
Okay.
I definitely think this is like a step up from regular Yummy, but no, I think it's just taking Yummy, like pure Yummy, and just taking it like that one step further.
It's an evolved
I think it's pretty
version
good.
of Yummy.
It's
Okay,
yeah,
here.
something like
So,
much.
here's my opinion on this deck. I think this deck is a C or D tier deck due to it being a lot, compared to pure Yummy, it's a lot worse into Charmy's and Roll. And it's like, I'd rather have if I'm playing against those cards, I'd rather have a lot of hand traps, which Luis knows pure Yummy can play a lot of, right?
Yes, I play pure Yummy a lot in my pod. You're making Yummy's strengths going first worse. Your engine can't break balls anymore. If you're incorporating an engine into Yummy, it should be Mitsurugi. Because you can
No,
break
Joshua
balls.
Schmidt lost.
Damn.
Yeah, sad.
Missed him.
Oh, wait, no, he won.
Oh, good. Okay.
Well, no, he won game 2.
Okay.
He won game 2.
Yeah. He won game 2.
Sorry, Team Winox, it's
I
kind
don't
of an
know,
intervention. Live up
Actually,
here.
no. Now that you guys said that, I think I might kind of agree, because like I did kind of forget how
is
it.
maybe top
I
of
think the
C
D tier
tier
deck.
because I think it's bottom
I
of B, top of C. I'll leave it at top of C for now. We can come back to it depending on how like the other decks are looking though.
I'd say bottom of D.
Bottom of D is crazy.
I
This
think
deck
that's
is so good.
No, it's pretty good. I actually no. Now that you guys said it, I do kind of agree how like it loses to kind of it does the same thing as Mitsurugi, where it like still loses to Droll, but Mitsurugi is just such a more powerful engine.
You're making yourself more resilient to cards like Dark Ruler and Nib in exchange for making yourself weaker for cards like Koalos, Perulia, and Droll, which I don't think is worth it because those cards are more common. So you're making yourself weaker into more common cards to be able to beat less common cards.
And
I agree.
your little names can't bridge engines because if you draw a little name, you can immediately use Snatchy realistically because Snatchy turns off Kulia, and it just becomes tough when you get hit with an imperm on like a normal summon. And it's like, do I want to lose to Droll or do I want to lose to my own restrictions to play into an Nibiru?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, low-key, I'm putting that in D tier.
All right, we'll go C tier for now. We'll see.
Okay.
I think DT is crazy. I think the next
And
battle.
the next deck is
Yeah,
Krishan.
I also agree that a D tier
Yeah, this
is
next
pretty
deck-
crazy.
This next deck we got Krishron K9.
I think it's a B tier deck.
I think
agree.
it's bottom of B tier. Yeah, this
I
deck
agree.
is
I think
off.
No, I think it's better than
Strong.
Mega Soul K9. I think it's better than Mega Soul K9.
I think the
the-
deck is very strong going first, but it just can't realistically do anything going second when the best hand trap is Izuna or a Nibiru when those cards just aren't as high impact as you need them to be.
I
Yeah.
agree. I think this
It's
deck is
definitely-
worse than Vanquishal because you don't have the additional like flexibility of Holisu going second, as well as having not as good of a Draco Tail matchup, which is like the most popular deck right now. So I think
On
like this
paper.
deck is just another Canine deck, but it's worse into Draco Tail than Vanquishal, like theoretically. So I think that this deck is just below Vanquishal, but still in B tier.
I think that's
Yeah.
fair. Totally.
This deck is
Definitely, like, if it wins the die roll, it just kind of wins the game. But like you said, it just doesn't have those like going second pushes like the turn 0 Holisu. It's very powerful. It doesn't have like it just can't really do that much into a established board, and then it's only like big hitter hand traps or like you said, Azuna, Nib that just aren't so as impactful as they need to be.
All right,
Yeah. Now the next deck is K9.
Mitsu.
What's the K9 deck? K9 Mewtwo. K9
Yeah,
Mewtwo is a one event deck because the K9 cards, after you see that, Jewel will be main decked more than likely, and Jewel just turns off your bridge, and it makes it to where a Jewel plus like a paired hand trap just like kills you realistically, and you don't get to play as much high impact non engine as you would like to in that deck, like Impulse.
I agree. I
Yeah.
think that this deck is maybe about
I
on
think
par.
it's your deck.
I'd
You
say,
think it's a
I'd
decent
say
deck?
Ken Mitsu's a lot lower than Yumi. So
Yeah.
probably.
The next deck is the best deck ever. It's
Best deck in the game, bro. Mega Knight.
Bro, Evo Mega Knight. All I'm gonna say, Evo Mega Knight. If you're not running it, you're probably behind. It's
Yeah,
just
you're behind if you
Skill-
don't
so
play
it's the
this
most
deck,
skillful deck in the format.
It's simply the best deck.
Like it breaks boards. It turns 0 FTKs. It does everything. It's
Like it turns your hand traps into like counter pushes.
yeah. It's very
Yeah,
nice.
the next deck is Pure Mewtwo.
So I think
Pure Mewtwo is
Pure
probably
Mewtwo-
a tier deck. Maybe an A.
I don't know. I don't think it's that good.
I don't think A is.
I think it's
Okay.
either
Ken
Top
Mitsu
of
won
B
the
or bottom of
Santa Clara
A.
Regional, which is
I
I'd say
I
top
mean-
of I'd say top of B. I think that deck's pretty decent, but like I think VSK9's better and Chris Run.
Yeah. I
Whoa.
don't think it like.
I'd say it's
I don't
closer
think
to
it has
C
that
tier
lot
with
of-
sulfur cards. I think it's.
I mean, when
a
you
lot
got
more comparable.
Impulse in a format where Draco Tail on paper is the best deck, an Impulse deck will shine, especially when you can Impulse by Mina, Rahu, Ketsu, Brand Diffusion. It just limits them and put them on have very limited extenders. The only thing I don't like about Impulse, it's not very good in Yami. You have to like time it like perfectly.
I agree. The impulse in this deck is just insane. Impulse in the mirror also, like against the Mitsurugi cards, being able to hit the ritual spell, and then also having 3 Ash, so you, like your odds of seeing a card that beat the Mitsu combo just doubles when you're playing this deck. So I think the impulse is a main advantage of this deck, but otherwise I don't think that the deck is like, I don't think it has a good enough engine to be able to go up to A tier.
Also
But
think
you get
like
the advantage. The non-engine this deck plays is just nasty because you can also play Di-Fi and Shifter in this deck, which just like
And
this deck.
Spiral. Oh no, you can't play Spiral. Actually, you can't play Spiral.
Yeah, but the deck kind of just like farms Draco Tail with its non-engine, which I think makes it be like
Yeah.
at least top of B tier.
And next deck
Yeah.
is probably one of the top 3 best decks
Yeah,
by
this next deck.
talking consistently right now. It's Malice.
Yeah, Malice. This deck is kind of broken. Like,
I think it's
if
an A tier deck.
Malice has all
Like-
the same advantages of being able to play the broken non-engine cards that Pure Mitsu does, but it also has better pushes and it feels better into the most played non-engine right now. And I think the
Yeah,
end board of Malice is
not
a
in the
little
corner.
better.
yeah, I think a big problem.
Out right now. I just think after this deck starts consistently topping, not that they're 2 different formats, but in Europe, a lot of people are playing Lancia, and in NA, we're not seeing as much of Malice giving results. We did have it get 9th place at Pittsburgh, but so far in Opens and right now in 300 or not 300, Italy, we're having a lot more players top with it in top 32 and top 8.
Shout
But
out
I
Duncan
think-
Tucker for 9th place in Pittsburgh with the deck, by the way.
Yes, shout out Duncan. He's
Yeah,
really
I-
the goat. He's probably like one of the best mouse players in my opinion. I don't know. I think it is.
Minnesota.
I totally think it is definitely an like deserves the A tier spot, because again, also kind of a problem with Mitsurugi is it does have that insane non-engine, but even if it's not in the main, Droll is going to be in this side. And if we see more decks like just pure Mitsurugi or just decks that Droll is really good into, we're going to start seeing Droll move back to the main deck a lot more often. And then that is where I think especially Mitsurugi falls off a lot when people are just maining Droll, which is such a, paired with other hand traps, which is such a just a kind of like FTK against the deck. It's just like, and I think just Malice not really having that, and then Lancia being a big commitment for just one deck, I think a lot less people will be playing it, and then Malice shines a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. You're totally right.
Yeah, I agree with
It's-
all that. I think
Deck
Mouse
building
is
is so
not, like,
questionable in the deck right now. Like, you have to question how many like starters you want to play post side, and that's like the really big thing about Malice right now and how you want to play it. There's like very straightforward options with the Radiant Typhoon card, and there's also options with the Lure / mining. I'm not a big fan of mining, but it's definitely an option. So many ways to play the deck.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think
definitely,
Malice,
like-
if you can figure out how to properly build this deck for an event with the proper sub engines, whether that's Bestial. I've seen some people trying like Fiendsmith in this deck still, which I don't think is fantastic, but maybe it's the correct choice for a single event. Or the Radiant Typhoon, Sky Striker, Allure, Sign Up Mining. I think if you can correctly identify the best build for your event, you have a very solid chance of being able to take this deck and win an event.
Yeah, it
Yeah, for
definitely rewards like good knowledge of the format of the event. It rewards good play and good deck building, which is
yeah.
another very nice thing about it.
Yeah, the next deck is it Yummy Mitsu?
Yeah, the pre-prep is Yummy Mitsu.
S tier. S tier.
Like, there's no question about this deck. It is the best deck by a long shot. Having the ability to do so much on the first turn and play so well through low impact hand traps, which so far none of the other decks, except I guess the other Mitsu decks right now, can play so well through an Impulse and Perm. Like, the Mitsu cards and the Yumi cards together just pair so well.
But yeah, it's like a match made in heaven. It's like
Yeah,
I
like,
don't
there's
think
always,
there's like it doesn't lose to any like I don't think there's a single like low impact or even medium impact hand trap that just kills the deck. Like it has so many pushes. Opening, Havakiri plus 1 or 2 Yummy names basically wins you the game. And I think it's just like both engines, they pair so well together. They're both very powerful. I think it's like
Let me give you my Yummy Mitsu talk, because yes, while all of that stuff that you just said is true, yes, the Yummy cards and the Mitsu cards pair very well together. Yes, they can make a good board. Yes, they cover each other's weaknesses in terms of like why hand traps are good against Yummy aren't necessarily good against Mitsu and vice versa. But also this deck, I think, so if you put in the Mitsu cards, you are taking out your extra Yummy cards that make your Yummy engine higher ceiling. So you're taking out your extra Yummy cards to make your Yummy engine a little bit weaker in order to put in the Mitsu cards to make your deck like the same power level, but give you an additional little bit of push going second. Except my problem with this deck has always been that you're adding in a bunch of bricks. Like you're adding in Saji, Murakumo, Mitsurugi Ritual, potentially the Trap card. You're adding in Mirror. So you're adding in 4 or 5 bricks just to play the smaller Mitsu package. And that's not including adding in Futsu, Kusanagi, and Aramasa, all of which are not good draws. So you have those on top of the minion and on top of the surprise, which gives you 10 cards. And then you also have your 3 Molcharmi Fualos in your deck that are just almost completely dead cards when you go first. You end up with 13 dead cards in your deck when you go first if you play the heavy package. And if you play the smaller package, I don't know if the Mitsu cards actually add enough to the deck to be able to justify the 4 or 5 more bricks that you're playing.
Can I say something real quick?
I get you, but Molcharmi Fualos and Aramasa is realistically a starter. If you pair it with another Mitsu card, it can do double pushes. And the Molcharmi Fualos, that's a lie, because you can always normal summon a Molcharmi or like a dead hand trap that you do not need and make Almirage and continue playing, and it just made it to where you play through 3 hand traps and you cut so many names, and that's fine because these are realistically so bad into like already boards, including half boards, and that's a weakness of Pure Yummy. But it's also a very good thing about Mitsu Yummy because it can it can main deck multiple Lollipop or multiple Cookie, and you can like decide which names you want to play and which ones are going second. Like Lollipop and Murakumo, it's like probably the best name going second, and it's fine because you just want your deck to have the ability to win game one, because winning game one is probably the most important thing in this format, because post side you have anti-spell, rivalry, Tikaboo, so many floodgates coming in the match.
Black Friday is live and Duel & Guard is dropping their biggest deals of the year. Buy 2, get 1 free, plus up to 40% off qualifying products like the Player Series boxes and the one-player playmats. Use the link at the top of the description to get an extra 15% off, exclusive only here. Whether you're grinding regionals or styling on locals, this is the perfect time to upgrade your setup before everything sells out. Duel & Guard and Team Moonox. Crafted for competitors. Chosen by the X.
Yeah, I think Curly said he had something to say.
Yeah. So the thing with that deck is, I think that deck is the best deck for a lot of reasons. So one other kind of side note, our friend Braden just won his regional with that deck. So shout out to him. His deck profile will probably be going up a little bit after this video. But I think that deck is like very strong because it lets your deck play through like infinite hand traps. So like for example, the Mitsu cards also, they are really good into boards. And it's kind of like the Pure Yummy deck. The issue with that is like it's like not very good into the Mitsu decks. But the Mitsu engine actually helps that because you bait out like all of their interactions with the Mitsu engine, and then you eventually go to your Yummy engine, which is gonna power through. And then if you're going first and you make the full end board, you're like never losing the game.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that this deck is S tier. I'm just pointing out like my inherent problems with it. Why I don't think I'm realistically ever gonna take this deck to an event. Because I think the deck is just a little bit too high variance.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So the next deck is Pure Draco Tail and like Draco Tail variants.
We'll just say Branded Draco Tail because that's the best version of it.
I think it's A tier. I think that deck has problems with its hands.
I think it's S tier for sure.
I think it's totally S tier.
I think it's low S tier.
I agree. I don't think it's better than Mitsu Yummy or especially Mega Knight, but
Yeah.
I think right now the problem with Draco Tail is that one inherent problem with it is that you play like bad cards and like you have to play Albaz, which Albaz is like it's a good card, just not good enough to do anything. And you play a lot of cards that don't get you set up correctly.
Yeah,
Or like
I
an Impulse, for example, can just like kill you.
I think because Draco Tail is the most represented deck right now, it's not the best deck right now. I think like before everybody was saying Draco Tail was the best deck, it was the best deck, but now that everybody is, it's I think maybe a little bit behind Yummy Mitsu. But I still think that this deck is very strong and can easily win an event.
okay,
Yeah.
here. Let me cover the beginning of this final deck real quick. So, and I'm gonna have Luis help a little. So the final deck is Pure Yummy.
Okay, yeah.
So
Me and Andrew love this deck.
yeah, but okay, I'm gonna be honest. This deck's not bad, but I don't think it's gonna be an S tier deck. Okay.
It's on your deck.
I think it's between A and B.
I think it's above Pure Mitsu but below Malice, so I
I agree.
don't know if
I
necessarily
do
matters.
very top of B. Very top of B.
Yeah.
So
Because I just think there's,
Totally.
there's better ways to play the deck.
Yes.
like it's just like the thing that I love about Pure Yummy is that there are very little decks in this format that can play the amount of non-engine and the amount of high impact to low impact ratios that Pure Yummy can play. And I think a big card in this format that people do not account for is Purge, because Purge is probably one of the most well-rounded cards in a format where we're in such a diverse format. Like, it's good against the social core cards because you can hit the spell card, and that just like hits the Soulful Core engine because that's the best card, and that's the only way they can get to multiple bodies unless they draw like 2 or 3 Soulful Core cards, which isn't ideal. It's really good into a any Mitsu deck because you can purge one of the spell players. If you can Nibiru them or hand trap them correctly, they will end up with a Murakumo Engrave and a Prayers, and you can always just purge that. And it's really good in how Purge is ideal, especially with K9 cards coming back in the format. Purge also accounts for that you like checking for Ripper and stuff. It's not good versus K9. What's the K9? The deck that makes Spell Canceller. I'm like zoning out for some reason.
K9 Krishan.
K9 Krishan. It's like that matchup. It's a little questionable on because like the Krishan cards are like a big part of that deck. You impulse one card, but if they drew a Krishan card, you don't win. But the problem is it's horrid going second unless you draw like 3 non-engine plus starter.
And if your name's Luis, you'll draw 5 non-engine and no starter in a 2v2.
Yeah, like that happened to me a lot because I played the deck at Pittsburgh for multiple side events with my goat Andrew. Big thing about this deck is that you can also brick because you don't want to play so many starters in your deck where you go over 40. Because after you go over 40, you're messing with your ratios to draw like 2 to 3 hand traps that are high impact. I was playing Nibiru. I have my deck profile. It's goated. Go see it. Like Nibiru, Molcharming Meowls, those cards are the one thing that deck can account for because you just have so much non-engine to diverse into everything. I played multiple. I think I played 42 in my list. Because if you play a bunch of Molcharmies, you can realistically draw into breakers or a hand traps to do something. It's just going second. Your Yummy cards don't do anything. Like Lollipo's the best one to draw going second versus a Mitsurugi deck, especially pure because you can normal summon Lollipo if you hit them with 2 hand traps and check for Murakumo immediately. But a big thing is that you don't play multiple surprise anymore, so it's not realistic enough for you to draw surprise to continue playing. And Engage is a really big thing about that deck, but you don't want to play 3 because after you play 3, the deck draws a lot during your opponent's turn. You draw a card, and you're just like messing up your math with hand traps and drawing an engine card and engine cards that aren't playable at all. At least with an Obedient School, you can, if your opponent outs your board, which is fair because Yummy does have a fair end board, but its follow-up is very good. With you being able to Cupsy and Marshmallow consistently looping your Yummy surprise. And it's a really good thing about the deck, but I don't think we will see this deck in top cut, maybe top 32. But the fact that it's kind of mid going second when every deck can like do something going second or they can FTK going first is a big thing around this deck, but it's still a very good deck for regionals and potentially 300 in the remote YCS when people don't see it coming and there's no one hand trap that completely limits the deck.
I totally agree with everything you just said. They're all amazing points, and I'm not trying to say none of them are correct because that's true. I personally used to play Pure Yummy a lot, and I kind of noticed once Obedient School got hit to 1, and decks like Mitsurugi and even Dracotail started gaining some more popularity. I think the deck definitely took like one big step back, and it kind of even reminds me of like Malice in a way, where you can play, at least for the format, a lot more non-engine than every other deck, like, and you have just a bunch of like, you know, 1-card starters, bunch of good engine. But I think the problem with Yummy is when going second, like the engine that you have is very good, but I don't think it's good enough to where, because even if you just like normal summon a Yummy name and it gets like destroyed, like with like, or even Dracotail Horn, like bounce it back to the hand or something, then most of the time you kind of just end your turn. And I think that's a big problem.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I don't think that the Yummy cards are inherently terrible going second, but I think that they're really bad into the sort of interruptions that we have in the format right now, especially like into Malice going second. Yummy is just terrible. It's like Cryptor, like it's Firewall Dragon. It's very awful. And into Draco, you also have a pretty hard matchup into Yummy.
So that's not true. Like your Draco Tail matchup is actually one of your better matchups post Marshmallow, because the way that deck works is since they don't have Book of Moons, your Marshmallow and your names are more realistic to get onto the field. And Draco Tail is actually one of your better matchups, which a lot of people do not know. Because I have a lot of people help me with my Pure Yummy build. And in testing, in actuality, Draco Tail cards don't affect you as much as people think. Sting doesn't hit anything besides Surprise, and that's fine because you can just loop your field spells continuously. And a Croaky is a big part of Draco Tail because it forces them to use the Flame Negate unless they want to let you get to a Synchro, which is really bad for them.
So,
Yeah, I definitely think in the. No, you're fine, Cody.
I was just gonna say, so I don't think the Draco Tail matchup's that good, but one good thing about it is you play Purge, Bell, and Ash, which are all effective against the traps.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get another 3 cards to counter the trap cards and Ketsu, Flash Lucius,
And
which
I
is a
think,
big
like, you definitely, like what Lewis said, like, the Sting isn't very impactful into Yummy. A decent amount of the time, like, it is never, like, turn ending, but Flame is very strong, because if you only start with one Yummy name and then they flame your minion, then you lose the game. And so, and also Horn, if you just normal summon a guy and it gets horned, then sometimes that's it. Sometimes you just can't do anything else. And so, having, like,
Yeah, you need to draw multiple pushes.
is like 9 cards that just fully stop 2 of their end board pieces. Sometimes even 3, like if you really need it against the Sting.
Yeah,
It's definitely I think where we have it on the tier list right now, like top of B. It's definitely not better than Malice because, in my opinion, because Malice's end board, there's no way you're
it's
breaking it.
undefeatable. Yeah, it's like hella hard to do.
Cannot. I genuinely think it is impossible for the deck. Not like if Malice gets
In this
to
format.
a good end board.
Yeah, Dark Ruler is out of the format gladly, and that's like another thing I'm gonna talk about real quick. Yummy is getting slowly better, and that's why I'm saying it's probably better for 300 and the remote YCS and former YCSs to come through in the format we're in. Since everyone's realized Dark Ruler is only good into Pure Yummy, Malice, and no other deck in the format consistently, correctly, the card is not good enough for people to realistically put it in their deck as more than a one for like Thrust maybe. And that's a big thing Yummy's getting because it lost a lot when people were main decking Dark Ruler. That's like a big problem I had with the deck. If you get Dark Ruler plus like Bell, it's auto loss. Like you can't come back from that sadly. But now, since Dark Ruler's out of the format, other breakers don't affect you as much because you can respond to them with your Herald Negate. And it's really strong. Another like problem with Yummy is that if you go second and you do hand trap your opponent multiple times, because in my Yummy deck I played 23 non-engine and like 17 starters and like 42 or 43 cards. It was crazy because you would hand trap your opponent like multiple times. You'd set them on a half board. If you do like a Cubsy plus Marshmallow, you could break a Yummy Mewtwo board because if you knew how to hand trap them correctly, you could put them on like SP Murakumo or IP Murakumo, and that's beatable realistically if you draw a bunch of names. And it came up where if you pass back to lose, Murakumo is just so strong and you're not setting up a Herald unless you get really lucky and your opponent misplays, which isn't realistic in a big tournament.
I agree. I think the tier list looks really solid. I'm happy with this. Everybody agree?
I agree.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%.
I don't agree with Soulful Cord thing because I think Soulful Cord, like, I have a big problem with Soulflagia being a 2. Like,
Soulflagia.
So,
Yeah, I mean, you can play 1, but then it gets kind of rough. But no, I
Well,
definitely
like-
think the tier list is kind of where it should be.
Yeah,
I think-
to the bottom a little.
I have
Yeah,
a question,
but-
like right before we wrap up.
Alright,
what's
what's
up?
up?
Would you guys be fine putting Vanquish Soul in C tier?
Yeah, I kind of want it because a big problem about the deck, you're not playing through a draw. You have your Raisin at 1, you're having so much consistency problems, you have to hope your Saryuja hits. and your opponent doesn't have an Imperm, which Imperm is in everyone's main, so as purge it, the deck can play it, which is another thing about Yummy. So my goat Yummy. Decks that can play like cards that stop it, it's not as good. And
Honestly,
then, like,
I think it's where it should be. Maybe go down, but like a deck like Draco Tail just doesn't play it. A lot of people don't really like. I mean, Imperm is a very good card, but
I'll move it. I'll
Also-
move it to bottom of B. I don't think I'm gonna move it to top of C. I think it's enough better than Solfa Yummy deck that it should be here.
Yeah.
Well, what
But-
Solfa Yummy deck is? It's just like
Okay, guys,
it's
I think it's time to wrap it up, Lewis.
Yeah,
I know you don't
before
like
that,
the
I
deck,
just-
but
I just want to say one thing. So, as we can see on our tier list, obviously the best deck is Mega Knight, the second best is Yamizu, and the third best is Draco Tail. And then Finn, we'll finish it off.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Talk to you later. We're not.